Hi there, Sandra here from the Schwowin's Nest. Welcome to my Holly Jolly Christmas series. Today I'm going to take you along with me as I decorate my mantle for the holidays. This is what it normally looks like. I have a farmhouse coastal theme happening in my family room, and this is the full fireplace. We just recently renovated it with some barn board at the top and the bottom and some new stone tile, and I am so excited to decorate this for Christmas. The first thing I'm going to do is take these panel nails, and they're just really thin nails and they're only 1 inch in length, on either side of the mantle, and I'm going to nail a couple of them in, and that's where I'm going to be able to hang my garland from. I'll probably need to use one in the center as well, but I'm going to wait till I have my garland set up before I do that. I've found the center of my garland and I'm just holding it in place there while I go around to each side and hook the garland in place. Then I'm just going to bend the garland down so it has some nice drooping on each side. To keep the garland in place, I'm taking one of the stems and twisting it around and wrapping it around the nail, and that will hold it there for me. This garland is something that I used just recently in a garland challenge, and I decided to just spread it apart, and so it's already got a few additions to it. It has some pine cones, it has some other pine greenery, and I've got a little bit of flocking happening with it. The next step is to fluff out the garland. You don't want to keep it the way it is coming out of the box or the bag. You want to make sure that you fluff everything up nicely, make it as full as possible. So I wanted to share with you that I am partnering with my very good friend Sonia at Domestic Diva and Vesna TV to host this mantle decorating and DIY challenge. Please make sure you go check out these ladies' channels. Their links will be down in my description box. And there's also going to be a playlist link, so you're not going to want to miss out on that. Everything you need to know will be down in my description box. Now let's get back to business. I've decided that I want my garland to hang a little bit in the center, so I have let it drop down into the middle of my fireplace, and there's a pine cone hanging right smack in the center, so that's just going to be a perfect addition. The key to making your garland look really expensive and full and high-end is to add multiple types of greenery. This is some vine that I had from the summertime, and I just thought it drapes so nicely and has a really feathery texture. It would look really neat draped on the side of the mantle and also just kind of woven in between the garland the way it is. Make sure once you add a different piece that you kind of wind it in between the original garland and make it look as natural as possible. I always bend a hook at the end of the stem, and then I can hook it in and twist a piece of the garland around it so it stays securely in place. I'm now going to add some more of this vine garland, and I'm going to start at one end and feed it into and wind it around the different stems of the garland just to get it hanging down a little bit more, and this is just going to turn out so pretty with the different textures. To make the garland have more of a droop in the very center of it, I'm taking this next piece of vine, feeding it through the garland, and then I'm going to let it hang in a V shape towards the center of the garland. Another tip I can share with you is to make sure you step back and see the big picture every once in a while, because that will give you a really good idea of how things are looking and where you need to add or remove some things. Here I'm adding vine on the other side so it can swoop down into the center of the garland like the first one. I had one smaller piece of this vine left over, so I decided to hang it smack in the middle and give a little bit more fullness to that center portion. So on the top of my mantle, you can see that I took away some of the jars, and that little house, I just think it's so sweet. So I went and grabbed myself a wooden candlestick that I had, and I decided to just put the house on the top there so it would have a little bit more symmetry between the faux birch log on the left and then the house on the right. My family room has a farmhouse coastal look, and I wanted to keep natural tones in with it. I didn't want to go with the red and sparkly and that kind of thing. So I'm using burlap ribbon to dress up this garland. I'm just going to start by bending it through. It's not wired, but I'm just going to hook it into part of the garland, and then I'm going to gather it and make loops all the way across. I'm bunching and twisting the ribbon to give it a little bit more of some texture, and then again using some of the garlands to just hook it in place. When I got to the corner, I decided that I wanted to have a really long tail of the burlap ribbon. So I'm leaving about a good 2.5, almost 3 feet. I'm going to cut a dovetail in it, and unfortunately I'm out of screen when I'm doing that, so my apologies. And then I'm going to just take that ribbon and tuck it behind the greenery and let it just drape on its own. I really loved how this was looking, but I thought once I added the burlap, I kind of lost a little bit of the greens. So I'm taking some of this garland that is a lamb's ear garland. I purchased it on Amazon, so I'll have the link down in my description box. And I'm going to just trim it into pieces, probably about 8 to 10 inches long. And I'm going to just feed that and wind it through the garland and the ribbon just to add some more interesting texture and color. I'm loving how this looks, but again, more greenery. I like my garlands really nice and full, and I'm having so much fun with this one. So this is some boxwood evergreen. Boxwoods are evergreens. They are green all year round, so it's a perfect addition to a garland because it adds just an extra little pop of a different type of green. I'm also going to hang one of the boxwood branches down the side just to give a little bit more fullness in those areas too. It's turning into a gorgeous garland, and for the final touch, I'm taking these little pine picks. They were also an Amazon purchase, and they came in a huge bag for not a lot of money. So I'm just going to take them and push them into areas where I think needs a little bit of fullness on top of the ribbon a little bit, just to add some more texture and color. I found a few more pine cones, so I'm just going to add those in just by giving them a little bit of a push, and they'll just hook themselves into the greenery. So you've probably been wondering all along, why is there a gate on top of my fireplace? Well, this was a gate that I built for my mother when she moved into a townhome, because the townhome had basement stairs that were wide open and I didn't want her to slip and fall. So I built this gate, and when she moved out of the townhome, she didn't need it anymore. So I thought it just makes a perfect kind of backdrop for my fireplace. And now I'm going to add these two risers. One is a candlestick and a metal charger, and the other one is just two Dollar Tree cutting boards glued together with some beads. And then I'm going to just decorate them with some bottle brush trees and some reindeer. Before I give you a final reveal, I still need to add a couple of things. So something needs to get hung on that gate, and I also wanted to DIY a sign. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing with that next. This is a frame that I grabbed for $3.99 at the thrift store a while ago, and I'm just going to remove everything, including those little tabs. I like that it's a black color underneath, so I don't have to pre-paint it with black, but I am going to give it 2 coats of linen white Rust-Oleum chalk paint. I cleaned the glass to get it ready for the next step. I have this peel and stick wallpaper that was sent to me last March from a company, and I will have their link down in my description box. This is a white wood grain vinyl wallpaper, so I've decided that I'm going to actually just stick this onto the glass, and that will be the backing for my frame. As you can see here, it is really fun working with these tightly rolled pieces of vinyl. So if you have any tips or tricks for me, I would love to hear them. I'm just going to cut out a piece that I need, and then I'll start putting it on the top of the glass. The first thing I do with anything peel and stick is I pull off a couple of inches and I make a nice crease in that so it doesn't fold back on itself. I'm going to flip the glass around and get the vinyl on top, and then I'm going to start at the one short end and just stick it in place. This peel and stick wallpaper is repositionable, so if you get it crooked or something happens to it with some bubbles, you can always lift it up and then continue on. I like to go a couple of inches and then spread it down with my hand. You can also use a scraper, or if you have any other type of tools. Here I started using my fingers, and it was actually quite funny because the paper was peeling off the back right when I was doing all of this little sort of scratching with my fingers. But ideally, I do like to use a ruler because that just helps me to keep all the bubbles out and make it nice and smooth. Next, I'm just going to use my utility knife and cut off the excess. I'm going to add this stenciled Christmas tree on one end, and then I'll put it on the other end as well. And I'm going to use a dry brush technique. I fell in love with doing dry brush on stencils, and I never thought that would be something that I would like or even thought of using, but I did it a couple of times already on a few different projects, and I just love the effect of it. I'm going to freehand the word believe in the center of the 2 trees using my Craft Smart oil-based paint pen in black. If you're not comfortable doing something freehand, you can also just print something off from the internet and then use the pencil transfer method, or if you have a Cricut, you can do a stencil or you can use the vinyl itself. I always get my word situated the way I want it, and then I go back and add some thickness to the letters, and I also do a little bit of thickness on the left-hand side and on the downstroke. So this is something that I do in all of my signs. I really like how that turns out. So if you want to know a little bit more about that, you can check out any of my sign tutorials and you'll see me working with that. I also like to do a little bit of a shadow line, and I'm using a fine point Craft Smart paint pen for this. Another technique that I've been doing lately is taking a small stiff dry brush and stippling a little bit of paint all over the letters. So not dragging it across, but just kind of pouncing up and down, and that gives it the effect of being aged and distressed. My sign is dry, and I'm going to just take some coarse grit sandpaper and very gently just rough up the edges and show some of that original black color coming through. Now I'm ready to put my sign back into the frame, and what I'm going to do first is use 4 of the tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree and glue those into the corners to help hold that glass in place. I'm going to use my Starbond medium thickness glue, and I'm just going to put it on 2 sides of the block and then glue it in place. It's an instant hold. I only had to press it down for about 5 seconds and the glue was dry. I have a link for the Starbond glue website down in my description box if you're interested. And for some extra security, I'm just going to do some hot glue all around the rest of the edges. Here's how my mantle turned out. I put the Believe on a frame holder right smack in the middle, and I also added a frosty berry wreath to the gate. I think it just adds that finishing touch and pulls all of the colors together. I'd like to thank Sonia and Vesna for letting me host with them today. I hope you enjoyed my video and got some inspiration to create some Christmas decor for your home. If you liked what you saw, I'd love for you to stick around a while. Hit that subscribe button. Those 2 black arrows will point you in the right direction. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.